Here yet again. My favorite superhero? Hmm. If I have to be honest, I'm gonna have to say Captain America. Yeah, because doesn't really have much of a superpower. He's basically just a super soldier. Yet he's still out here fighting and doing all this shit, risking dying. Unlike kind of like Thor, where he's basically just a god doing whatever he wants. Exactly. Well, I think Batman does have a bit of the element of surprise since he is essentially just the only billionaire. Trust no one, not even yourself. True. Simple, he just dies now. Oh,
audio coming through? There. Okay, there we go. Now it's coming through. I don't know what's happening. I'll probably have to snip that part out. But if you missed it, I was just talking about Batman Arkham Knight and stuff, and how fear is just how Batman basically, you know, he's not terrified of Scarecrow in the slightest, and because of that, he's kind of he just uses he doesn't rely on brute force to defeat Scarecrow. He kind of plays him at his own game, and I kind of like that quality.
It does make Batman a lot more unique in that sense, where he's probably the only few characters in the entire series able to conquer his fears. But then when it comes to the villains of the series, some of them, you can like them and their motivations, but
Hmm.
the others just kind of don't make sense.
What example we got?
One example I'd probably say is maybe Bane. We don't really have an exact reason why he decides to fuck with Batman. With the police and all of them, in most of his stories, it makes sense. He has a grudge, and he wants revenge for what he was forced to go through. But against Batman specifically, doesn't really make all that much sense.
Yeah, I get what you mean. It's honestly, Mr. Freeze is another one. It's like he's trying to save his wife, and for some reason he does this by causing terrorism. I don't get how that works. Like, I have to save Nora, but everyone else needs to suffer first. Like, it's so backwards.
It really is.
And Harley Quinn makes sense because Joker, obviously, you lured her in with false promises and shit, and played her weaknesses in order to bring out her strengths. But then we have that character arc, which is handled differently throughout the different DC sectors, where we have Harley's like the aftermath of working with Joker. I don't know. I don't remember clearly what happens in the Injustice timeline of things, but I'm pretty sure what happens is that she's kind of talked down out of siding with Joker, especially after what he did to. I think it was Metropolis. I think he nuked Metropolis, and then
Yeah, in
Joker's
one of the series he did.
yeah, and then Joker's killed by Superman because Joker pissed off Superman, which is something you either die or you live to regret it when it comes to pissing off Superman. And Joker obviously died having a last laugh because he basically split up the Justice League without even having to hurt Superman, and that's hilarious to me. But because Joker dies, Harley's kind of like without purpose now. So if I remember correctly, the Justice League kind of try and indoctrinate her into their side to try and make use of her skills and knowledge in order to give her a better purpose. And in Injustice 2, we see obviously she's still not entirely over Joker, but she does show signs of, being a better person. And I kind of like the growth that's shown within those two games with Harley. And Harley's
Yeah,
a well grown character.
where she develops as
Hmm.
an actual person.
And then we have Wonder Woman, who just becomes the biggest cock rider I've ever seen in my entire life. Superman could kill someone in broad daylight, and fucking Diana would be like, war casualties. Oh, whoopsie daisy. He was just having a moment. Like, how? How would you thirst for someone so fucking much that you're willing to put aside heroic duties to defend your boyfriend? Like, what? It doesn't make sense.
Where you have forsaken the entire thing you're supposed to do, defending the innocent and the weak.
Yeah, exactly. And and it's like she just doesn't feel any sort of remorse. Like her old friends are like split apart, fighting each other. Some agree, some disagree. Hell, I believe she literally watched Superman kill fucking Shazam, a kid, by the way, and just kind of brushes that off. Flash obviously was a smart one. Actually woke up and saw that maybe this isn't the Justice League that I signed up for. Maybe this is kind of like, maybe we're not the good guys here. He actually has a moment of reflection and decides this shit ain't worth it. I'm gonna go to Batman's side. I just don't understand why Diana's no different. Like, you'd think she'd be the smart one here, considering how she's like pretty much a demigod, if I remember correctly. Like,
Yeah, she's the leader of the Amazonians.
exactly, she's a fucking leader, and yet she leads an army blinded by cock, pretty much. Like, what? I don't understand how she's so ignorant to what Superman does and how he behaves and how he treats everyone. And like, she doesn't question the fact why do they need to imprison Superman? Why does he need to be contained? Isn't it like a common criminal? Like, you'd think she'd draw the conclusions from there that they're imprisoning fucking Superman in order to keep him safe from everyone else. That's what you do to not superheroes, super villains, to stop them from causing crimes. And the fact that her, an experienced fucking hero, does not put those connections together is is genuinely astounding.
Indeed. But hey, it's Supercock.
It's fucking super cock. Oh my god, there's
Yeah,
so many
Supercock.
frustration characters in Injustice. They just feel so like grossly uncharacterized. It just feels like they have to follow him for the sake of following him. They don't use their brains.
Except for the handful that actually choose to follow Bruce.
Mm-hmm. And then you fucking have let's say, what's another very good example? Oh yeah. You ever watched The Boys?
Yeah,
Have you watched season 3?
I haven't yet.
Okay, then I won't spoil it, but let's just say there's so many stupid decisions in season 3 that make it one of the worst endings to a season yet. It's genuinely stupid what happens in there. But The Boys, though, I do love The Boys and how they portray superheroes and how realistically they would behave in this kind of world. Uh, you really do see them how they truly are. You see A-Train is just a piece of shit who exploits drugs and treats women like shit. He even kills people. There's instances where he literally causes someone to overdose. He kills Hughie's girlfriend, like in the beginning of the series, by
Yeah.
accident, by the way. And
Or was it?
exactly. The Deep is a piece of shit. He literally sexually assaults Starlight at the beginning of the fucking series, and that's not even a joke, by the way. The invisible guy, I forgot his name. He's a pervert, unsurprisingly. Funny
Very
enough,
unsurprising.
funny enough, he's actually one of the first characters to full on die, and that's funny to me. The invisible guy gets a bomb shoved up his ass and detonates from the inside out, which is
No, he gets an electrical rod shoved up his ass.
oh yeah, oh my god. It's like I do love the separation of soups and normal people, and how they're portrayed on media. Like I remember seeing the episode where fucking what's her face, the lightning bitch, gets called out for Nazi history and being over like 100 years old, and it's demonstrated in a way where it's like a celebrity getting cancelled, and they even have interviews with Homelander because they were apparently a pair at some point, like for publicity's sake, and it's the
Hmm.
way you can see in his eyes that he really fucking hates that this happened, and it's really well done, and the fact they have so many shitty green screen movies, it's so fucking appropriate. They really do take the piss out of Marvel and DC and shit like that. It's great.
It
Oh.
is.
I will say Homeland is one of the best written villains in the entire in pretty much any superhero fiction. People really just undersell how important he is to the story and how his development matters. Because you really think about it, Homelander is a victim. Now, I'm not saying he is 100% a victim. He was born not for a father, but for a test tube in order to, farm for superheroes, basically. I'm not going to spoil who his dad is because, that's, spoilers. But,
But I will.
but basically, he's just born to be a product, basically. He wasn't born and raised as like a son. He was just part product. As a fucking Edgar even says, he's just bad product. And I remember seeing that in the comics of that scene, Homelander does like genuinely fears Edgar because he can hear the heartbeat in his chest. He is not afraid of Homelander in the slightest, and that terrifies him. It's just imagine being able to hear that someone right in front of you does not give a shit about how powerful you are, and they will talk to you how it is. Like it's just again psychological mind games. I'd say it's more powerful than physical, obviously in altercations. It's just way cooler because it's like don't even have to touch them in order to win. It's really fucking sick.
Yep. Just control them through fear of not giving a shit.
Mm-hmm. Oh my god, and I do like A Train's development throughout the series. He does get better. Like he apologizes to Huey. Like that's like obviously smaller action shit. Like he killed someone close to him, but the fact he straight up apologized, he said sorry for that shit. It's a sign of growth, and the fact that he's almost died multiple times, and he's kind of reflecting on himself. He's starting to be more humble. It's really cool because at the beginning he's just a massive piece of shit that is no redeeming qualities whatsoever. But the fact that you can actively see A Train like slowly becoming a little bit more bearable of a person is really cool. You don't see that kind of development in a lot of Marvel and DC products and stuff. So it's really cool to see that.
Indeed. Seeing characters actually develop and either get better or get worse, or become more humble, things like that. For
Yeah.
Clark, it's always kind of been the whole he's a farm boy, he's a Boy Scout kind of hero. And while I do like that, I also like villains kind of slowly growing into what they are or slowly changing for the better from their ways. Kind of
Yeah.
like how in some of the comics, Mr. Freeze slowly turns good for the sake of his wife.
Yeah. I remember seeing that whenever Mr. Freeze actually uses his fucking brain and decides to ask for help, that it really makes it really changes the perspective on how you see these guys. Because normally it's like, oh no, bad guy, but it's like you understand why he's doing the things he does because
Exactly.
he's trying to save someone. He's morally grey in that sense. Like he's doing shitty things, but his end objective is not shitty.
Exactly. Isn't to cause chaos within the city or kill as many people as possible. It's just to try and save his wife. And he needs money and people and resources for that.
Yeah, and the fact that Batman just consistently takes these away from him because he thinks, oh, criminal. It's like, fucking hell, understand what he's trying to do.
Exactly. The one series I think did it really well is The White Knight.
Mm-hmm.
And the way they characterize Joker in that is basically he turned good after taking a mysterious drug that has an unknown manufacturer, which was really a really cool idea, in my opinion. Because it was the first time we've seen Joker not really insane or anything like that, but just as this normal dude that wants Gotham to be better.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
when Joker's good, it's a 50-50 scenario. Do you remember the Batman Telltale games?
Yep.
He was technically good, morally grey at best, but he was John Doe in that game. He wasn't Joker until way, way later. But you could really get to know Joker through Batman and Bruce because you could either shape him to be the villain, the generic Joker villain that you want to face at the end, or you could face him to be a hero by trusting him and believing that he was innocent. But if you continuously like go against Joker and just keep being a piece of shit to him, he'll get pushed in the normal path. But if you keep Joker at your side and tell it and trust him and befriend him, he'll become a vigilante to fight by your side. But my main issue with that iteration is that no matter what you do for either side, Joker still ends up turning into the Joker for some fucking reason. Like, even if he's a superhero, even if you've warmed up to him, he will still snap and start killing people like a supervillain. And it feels really pointless to build up that trust and connection only to just immediately take it away. Like, what's the point?
True, but also at the same time, he was into a mental asylum for God knows how long. Like to the point where nobody even knows his real name anymore.
And that's the
So,
thing. How did he get out in the first place if, number one, no one knows who he is? And number two, he's been in there for a very long time. Like, if he's in there for that long, it has to have been something bad.
yeah. And we really never get any questions as to why he was in there or how he got out. It's just kind of like, hey, one day he's out somehow. Like, the only logical explanation is he somehow managed to find a way to sneak out during all the chaos of when Bruce managed to escape somehow.
No, I believe they explained it as in they just let him out. They literally signed him off to be released into the world again.
Hmm.
Because he was getting in sweet with that one therapist, I forgot her name. He was like being a kiss ass pretty much. So I imagine after a few weeks or months of that, I reckon she just let him out.
Hmm. That does make a bit of sense.
And it's weird because the real villain in the first game at least was Lady Arkham. I don't know how to feel about Lady Arkham. I really don't.
I don't remember shit about her.
Basically, Lady Arkham was Vicky Vale, the reporter, but under a disguise, pretty much. And
Also, she's basically just the super cunt.
pretty much, yeah. I will say though, the backstory they feed us on what happened to Vicky was really cool. But I just feel like dropping all of this in episode 5, it really just does not make us like we go from understanding to just killing her pretty much. Like, what's the point? It's
You have
just like
forsaken your entire mission.
I do really. I will say that the good point about that fight was you getting the choice to either take off your mask and show that you're Bruce, or just keep it on, and then Alfred gets he gets his eye ruptured. So,
No!
I think that was a really cool decision. Like that decision stays with you throughout the entirety of the second game, and I like that.
Well, anyone that obviously chose to rather have Alfred with one eye does not deserve Alfred.
And Pirate Alfred, and
Pirate Alfred.
that's another thing actually. At the end of the second game, Alfred's like, "Fuck this! I'm leaving. I'm leaving unless you drop the Batman act and fucking stop being Batman." But what kind of choice is that? Like, yes, I'm going to let the city suffer through crime and discrimination because my butler's leaving. It's like, it's
Yeah,
kind of selfish of Alfred. It feels really out of character. It's like, I don't want to do this anymore. It's like, that didn't stop him for
exactly.
the last fucking 7 episodes of the game. It just doesn't make sense.
I can understand worrying about Bruce's health, but straight up telling him, no, I'm going to leave if you do not stop being Batman, that's just kind of pushing it for his character. Because in almost all the series, Alfred is basically this father figure to Bruce the entire time. He cares about him, but he also understands why he needs to be Batman. So he wouldn't just push him to just stop it all of a sudden. Unless he was getting too old or he's in a condition where he can't do it anymore.
Like, his
Those are the only
reasoning
times Alfred would.
His reasoning was, "Oh, everyone we're around suffers." It's like, well, no shit. They're fucking deranged lunatics who kill people. Like, yeah, of course they're gonna fucking suffer. They're criminals. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
It's such a fucking bad ending. It's just, Alfred just feels like he has to leave for the sake of a big end game choice. It doesn't feel like he's leaving because he's leaving. It just feels like devs are like, "Oh, do you want to be Batman still, or do you want to keep your butler?" It's like, maybe I'll be Batman still.
Because there's a reason why we are Batman after all.
Exactly. And it's like, oh, but your father did the same. His father was a gangster. Like, I'm pretty sure they're two different occupations. A gangster and a vigilante. One's fighting for justice. One's fighting to earn a buck.
Exactly. How do you think they became a billionaire?
That's what I mean. Oh my god. It's just there's a lot of weird writing in the Telltale Batman games.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
It has the Telltale series is good when it makes its own characters and develop its own stories. When it tries to enhance a story, it kind of fails entirely in that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Like you remember the Wolf Among Us, right?
Oh yeah, The Wolf Among Us. That game was I like that game.
Yeah, it had a really good characters, and the villain was solid. You, they were a unique version of the fairy tales we knew.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, it still made it work. It made sense. But then you have like Batman's, and it's kind of incredibly questionable, like in almost every aspect possible. It's still
Yeah.
good, but not quite as good as from the original Telltale.
Ironically enough, I'd say the best villain to come out of the games was definitely Two-Face. He had so much build up and so much like you spent so much time with Harvey Dent, like beginning of the game and thereon. And he just goes through so much shit after his attack with Penguin. Like, let's be honest here, who really didn't but choose to pick Catwoman over Harvey Dent? Because we all know he's not gonna die, and
Exactly.
with Catwoman we don't know that, so we obviously save Catwoman. But even if you don't save Catwoman and Harvey doesn't get his face burnt, he still has the mental issues of Two Face, which I don't know. It kind of feels like it's pointless to make that choice if he's just going to become the same person anyway. So
Exactly. He's just not as ugly now.
pretty much, but Two Face was fucking incredible in that because this was a Two Face where Harvey Dent and Bruce Wayne explicitly know each other well. That means Harvey knows his weaknesses, his pros. Like he knows him in depth, you know. And those two were partners when Dent ran for mayor. So for his conclusion in the Wayne Manor, like he tries to burn the house down, is really fucking climactic because it allows these two characters that have been so friendly for so long to finally confront each other on a face-to-face level. And it doesn't help that Selena was seeing Harvey Dent, and evidently you choose to sleep at her place, whether you fucked her or not. Doesn't matter. Harvey still makes the assumption you two were up to something, and you two fight. So there's like no saving your friendship from there. He makes all these actions against you. You go from befriending Harvey to fucking hating his guts, and it hurts because these two were friends at one point. Like there's a sense of betrayal there.
Indeed.
And then you have Penguin, who's kind of like just smug arsehole that catches up with Bruce and then becomes a villain. I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking with Penguin.
Batman.
They always make him British as well for some reason.
Yep.
But I don't know. I don't really see this development in My Hero that much, except for the villain side. I see development from the villains more than I see development from the heroes.
We really do.
Like,
That,
for example,
that's the funny
Darby.
thing.
Darby was a really good villain in My Hero, purely because of the fact that, actually, spoiler alert, if you don't want to hear this, skip like 20 seconds, 30 seconds in, but Darby is revealed to be the son of Endeavor, and the eldest son, I think he's the eldest son of Todoroki, the elder brother. And
Yep.
it's really cool because, like, how it goes is that, you know, Darby was burning up. He literally set himself alight like a candle and ran off into the forest. Endeavor assumed that, you know, he was pretty much dead. And because of this, when he went back after his coma, fucking Darby saw his memorial and he kind of put the pieces together there. It's like, oh, these fuckers think I'm dead. They didn't even come to look for me. So he's just on a warpath there to basically shit on Endeavor's name as much as he can. And not knowing that before, you just think, oh, he's just a big hater of Endeavor. But now that you know that this is a son seething with jealousy and just envy that his brother got like the compassion and treatment he always wanted, you understand that from a familiar level because any son would get really pissed off if there was a favorite child chosen over them, and it basically makes his pain personal. It's not just manifested evil pain. It's pain that they weren't included, and they're exacting wrath on the person who refused to include them, which I think is really cool. And I hope they continue with this kind of development with characters because I think it's really cool.
I have to agree. It is. Seeing that Dobby is Endeavor's son and how Endeavor used to be this huge piece of shit, but then slowly grew as a character is nice. You can really see why Dobby absolutely hates Endeavor now. Like before, understandable, but even more so now that he's deciding to not be a giant asshole to his entire family.
Yeah. Oh god. I've seen Deku develop before, but then he kind of just goes back to how he was before, and I kind of get really sad. Like the most popular example of this is when he went through his vigilante phase, when he had like the big mask on and he looked like a menace. Like he truly had a fucking enough. And then he kind of like says to his friends, "Fuck off! You're all gonna get killed or hurt, or your quirk stolen." Like he's panicking, and that was really cool because he goes from whining about like how dangerous things are to whining for his friend's safety. Like he's like, "No, you guys can't handle this shit. You guys are gonna get hurt." And they're saying, "No, we're gonna come with you no matter what." And I really like that back and forth between them because it's like Deku's scared that they're not gonna handle it, while they're scared that Deku's not gonna trust them, and there's just fear all around, but each side is kind of battling to win each other over, and it's just a really cool perspective. I really like that scene so much, but it's kind of sad that because of this scene, Deku's development into being more bitter and more pessimistic is kind of downplayed back into his usual character self. He feels still a little bit too safe, but I don't know. It was a good scene no matter what, though.
It was. But then we have Bakugo. I don't really understand how people can like his character at all. He's just this giant asshole through and through. It's just, I get the whole thing is he was Deku's bully and he's slowly growing, but it's just, it doesn't make anything he's done acceptable at all, no matter what. And I don't really see how you can ever really relate to him or like him as a character. Like as a plot point, okay, I can understand, but as a character trying to help Deku grow, no, no, no.
I don't know. Yeah, Bakugo kind of feels like a really, really intensified Vegeta, if that makes sense. It's like if Vegeta was constantly telling Goku like, "No, you're not the same prodigy. You're never going to succeed. I'm the best." Like constantly, every episode, no matter what the context or situation. It's funny at first, like okay, he's the asshole, secondary protagonist, got it. But then after like the fifth, fourth, and like 20th time, that character trait really starts to get old. It starts to become tiresome, and it just overall starts to get really, really sluggish. It starts to become like what's the word? Flanderized, where it's just his whole character and nothing else. But I'm hoping that in the manga they change this up and they make him actually more humble and less of a loudmouth that thinks he's the best 24/7. Because having that be his constant character trait is really getting fucking old, and it's kind of overdue for a change at this point. If not him dying, just give him a realization that makes him humble.
Exactly, the realization that he's been too much of an asshole.
Yeah. Otherwise, he's just gonna be this constant negative Nancy that is really unenjoyable to to deal with. Oh my god, and it's just I don't know. I don't really vibe with how Bakugo treats Deku because it just feels like hating for the sake of hating. I know it's like, oh, you're always the best, even though I'm the one that picks on you. It's just it doesn't feel like it's worried half the time. It's like we get the deal at this point, but why does he keep doing it if he knows it's not worried? It just feels like he's doing it for the sake of doing it and not because he feels he has to do it.
Exactly.
I just don't understand it.
At
Oh,
this point, I don't think anyone understands it.
but if we're talking about fucking bitter people who develop, the Suicide Squad, not the first one, the second one with James Gunn. We see Bloodsport, who is just the biggest asshole imaginable. We see him literally treat his daughter like shit and get into big arguments with her. And then we see her transform slowly into a more cooperative person. Hell, we even see him progressively get over his fear of rats, despite being traumatized by being locked in a crate with them. Like, we just see Bloodsport go from this bitter bastard to this, like, moody but understanding leader who even saves an entire town. Like, he didn't have to. He could have just left it to destroy everything, but he actively went against Amanda Waller's orders alongside his teammates to go and stop it. And if that's not proof that he's developed as a person, I don't know what is.
That is pretty good character development. It shows people growing as a character, not just being the same old asshole. It's showing that they can actually become good people if they try, but there's a concept better.
Yeah. But even when it comes to development, some characters can say the same if they're written right. And that's Peacemaker. Peacemaker is one of the best examples of someone never changing. From start to finish, he is the exact same person through and through, no matter what. He has an objective and he's going to get it done. But we can clearly see through John Cena's incredible acting the effects that some of these actions have on him. Like, he kills someone or one of his teammates by stabbing him through the heart. And because he served in the military, Peacemaker has a massive amount of respect for him. So when he has to take his life, you can see him visibly distraught by this. And you can see his human side come out that he regrets having to do this, but the mission comes first. Prioritizing peace over anything clearly hurts him, but he has to do it. And even when he sees Ratcatcher, he has a moment of regret because he knows what he's going to have to do before he quickly switches that off and goes back to mission mode. Like, he's an active soldier through and through, but even then, you can still see cracks in him emotionally, and I think that's a really cool detail.
Just little moments of weakness that shows that they're still human beings.
Yeah, and I will say, Polka Dot Man was taken out for his time.
Polka dots.
Polka Dot Man. I was gent. You know, a character is written well when you start out not giving a shit about them, and then they slowly grow to become someone you audibly scream out no for when they die. Like, that's how you write a good character.
Yep, where you can actually get connected to the character.
Yeah,
Like, I'd probably use Chainsaw Man as an example, but there's only like two characters you would grow attached to. That's Denji and Aki.
hmm
And anyone that tries to say like, "Oh, but we got connected to him," I go, "No, she was like in 2 episodes and that was it, and she didn't have a very good character development to really get you attached to her and like her. It was just kind of like, eh, she's just kind of there. I don't know why."
yeah. I guess that's true. Ah, let's see what else is there. Would you consider Omni-Man a hero or villain?
I would consider him something more along Deadpool's kind of line, an anti-hero.
Hmm.
Because he's still saving people and doing heroic acts, but he's also has an ulterior motive. It's
Hmm.
kind of trying to balance the scales. Like on one hand, he's done a lot of good for the people, but on the second hand, there's a reason why he has.
Hmm.
So it's just kind of hard to call him either a hero or a villain in most cases.
Yeah, he's a hero with a closet of skeletons, pretty much.
Yep,
Omni-Man was really interesting because he's like Superman, but not as realistic. Like, I don't think Superman would go as far as to nearly just kill his own son just because his son won't let him do as he pleases.
exactly.
And I love the how even Omni Man has emotional weakness, like similar to Peacekeeper. Like, despite what Omni Man has done to Invincible, he still says he'd rather have him, his dad, and you can clearly see that what he said there completely destroys Omni Man. He completely like shuts down because he was expecting some sort of line of retort like "No, shut up" or some shit. But he still hears his son say, "No, I'd rather have my dad." Like, he looks at his hands, he sees the blood and shit. You can clearly see that he was emotionally affected by that to the point where he just straight up left the planet. He didn't know how to process it, and I think that was a really cool detail because despite being one of the most powerful beings in that show, he still has these vulnerabilities as a person.
Exactly, because we know about the Viltrumites' true nature and how they are,
Hmm.
and we've seen that staying on Earth long enough was long enough for him to change as a person, to actually be able to grow attached to his family, which was nice. It showed him developing more and more as a character.
Yeah, and it's just after everything he throws at his own son, the fact that none of it really changed how he felt about him as his father is just it's just incredible because like he literally shoved his son in a train full of people, killing multiple of them. He beat him half to death. He has him in a bloody mess on the floor, croaking and crying. And even still, his son's like, "No, I'd rather have you." Like he can't win. Again, this is another instance of how mental fortitude can pretty much test the standard time against physical power. Because like no matter what he's done here, it's his mental weaknesses that lost him that fight to the point where he literally just felt like he had to leave. So it seems like a common thing with these characters. They're like incredibly powerful, like physically. They have laser eyes. They have fucking super strength. They are borderline invincible, and yet they still somehow lose these battles just by the test of the mind. It's actually quite funny how most of these are quite similar to each other.
It is. But it's also nice seeing that they do have their own weaknesses.
Yeah.
Just like having every character have a sort of kryptonite makes sense. It doesn't make them like this super Mary Sue that's going to be annoying as shit.
Hmm.
It gives them weakness, something that they can eventually overcome, or for a way to for the villains to actually hurt them, either physically or mentally.
Yeah. Ah. What else? What about Spider Man? How do you think Spider Man is?
I really like Spider-Man, honestly. He's a good, solid character. Like, he has people he cares about, he has clear kryptonites, and he's still a good person despite everything that happens to him. He still cares about everyone in the city, including his villains. Because at any point in time, he could just kill them and be done with it. But no, he still decides to try and take them in alive, with the hope that one day they can maybe rehabilitate, like with Doc Ock.
Unless
Like
he has a symbiote.
exactly. Like you've played the first Spider-Man game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It makes sense as to why Peter would take in Doc Ock alive, because he has hope that he can still become his old self, the one that pursued science for the betterment of everyone, not this Doc Ock that just wants to cause chaos, havoc, and do whatever the hell he wants.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also have the variant that, if I remember correctly, ended up marrying Aunt May, and that's something I really like.
Dude, everyone's married Aunt fucking May. J. Jonah Jameson.
The only character I really don't like is probably J. Jonas Jameson a bit.
Oh,
That's,
yeah.
yeah, where he's just constantly an asshole.
The
And
only
he's just
reason he's good is because of fucking J.K. Simmons' performance. Like, you can never get sick of how he delivers, like, his lines.
exactly. And just the Spider-Man suit on his desk joke.
Mhm. Oh my god. And it's funny how, like, because of that performance, most of the J.K. Simmons appearances you see are kind of pseudo-modeled after him.
Exactly. He did such a fantastic job acting as the character that just whenever you see J. Jonas Jameson, it's just always him. You can never
Mhm.
see anyone else.
Oh my god. I believe if it was anyone else, though, they would consider his character annoying. But because it's J.K. Simmons and the way he delivers the lines of sounding like an entitled journalist who chats shit, I don't know. It just makes him more endearing that way.
Exactly.
Oh,
And then, let's see. We could talk about Deadpool, but he's a bit of a harder character to fully describe. Because again,
mhm.
he has those good and bad moments, and he's more of an anti hero. So it's hard to really classify him in either category.
Yeah.
But regardless, I still do think he is a good character. Like, he's not this absolutely god awful human being, despite, you know, the various war crimes that we
Mm-hmm.
will not speak of.
Yeah.
But he still has emotions, he still has emotional vulnerabilities, where he's not exactly afraid to show it to certain people. And while he does play it up, it also kind of makes you feel a little bit bad for him. Because we know the kind of things he's been through, the kind of things he's currently suffering through. And it kind of makes you feel a little bit bad for him, despite all of it.
Yeah.
What
Ah.
are you talking about? I was thinking about like most versions of J. Jonah Jameson have him be at least like a decent sound.
But then also we have Wade with his super cancer.
I will not.
That is, you gotta admit, that's kind of funny.
The
The fact
way it's
that
described. Where the Chaos Emerald's super cancer. Oh my god.
nobody is safe.
Speaking of Spider Man, fucking Miguel O'Hara. He's a weird instance of a Spider Man because he's kind of not Spider Man, but he's like kind of he's also is, but like it's kind of not like a vampire, weird spider hybrid thing.
Exactly.
It's like they tried to
He,
make Spider Man, but they kind of fucked up, so now he's kind of Spider Man, but he's not.
yeah, he wasn't made in the traditional sense. He just genetically modified himself.
To become Spider Man.
Spider-Man.
Oh
I need
god.
help wiping on the toilet, Spider-Man.
Oh my god. Who would win in a fight of saying Spider Man's name? Kingpin or Green Goblin?
Kingpin, obviously.
And Kingpin says it the best way. Spider Man.
Spider-Man.
I love how exaggerated his body proportions are in Spider Verse because he's just meant to be a big guy in a suit, But they kind of took that to an extreme in the Spider-Verse movie.
Yeah, it is pretty funny. Just this giant guy that you don't know how his body works. He's just like built like a goddamn brick wall.
Mm-hmm.
Like a legit brick wall.
He truly is a kingpin, I guess. Fucking hell.
Not only is
Also,
he the kingpin, he's the king wall.
the king of war. I think if
He's
I
the
remember
king of the
correctly,
swamps.
he's the king of the farms. Oh my god.
I just remembered that.
Fucking hell. But like, I think his backstory was, he lost his wife and kid to a car crash because he was fighting Spider-Man. So he blamed Spider-Man for their death.
See that. But also at the same time, I probably believe it would have been less likely to happen if he wasn't fighting Spider-Man.
My guess is, why didn't
So
Spider-Man try and save them?
indeed, it's kind of his own fault. But it doesn't make it any less sad.
Mm-hmm. He's clearly very haunted by it. Even when he fights Miles, the fake family that gets summoned on the train, he even goes to talk to them because he thinks they're alive somehow.
Yeah, that really hurts. Because we can clearly tell he still very much misses his family and would like to be back with them, which is why he's doing all this stupid shit. Despite probably knowing that you shouldn't break the space time continuum or enter different dimensions you do not belong in. But you can still kind of feel bad for the guy,
He has
despite
a just
everything.
cause to do what he does, but he's still a piece of shit.
Exactly. That can't take a shit.
I love the family photo he has where he's just a fucking round bowling ball compared to his normal family.
Exactly.
It's so fucking good.
Dude, if that was the issue this whole time, I'm gonna fucking kill somebody. I was sitting here trying to figure out why I kept turning up. Why?
Oh my god. Actually, I don't know. The Spot was the antagonist in the next film, which is kind of weird. They always felt like Miguel was the antagonist of that film, but he's not. So like,
We'll see in due time.
Yeah, the antagonist was technically the Dot, but he wasn't really that bad.
oh,
He
he's
was
like,
just kind of like
yeah, he started out as like a C tier villain, and now he's like a world-ending threat.
he's a dimensional threat.
Mm-hmm.
But I still don't think that makes him a bad character because it wasn't his entire plan the entire time. It was just something he kind of fell into because of what happened to him.
He was such
Yeah.
a good guy, built like a super ending fighter, man. Like he got so done wrong. There's no way it's not like he fucking deserved it.
Hey, a paycheck is a paycheck, okay?
Oh my god.
Hey, $20 is $20, okay?
I love how his entire reason for becoming Spat was because Spider-Man fucked him over.
Divorce to have his kids back.
Yeah,
It's
that's
almost
a
like
bit
you
of a
should
stretch,
do
but also at the same
brothers.
time, I can understand. Because Spider-Man did mess up with the collider and then caused all the prom, but also the way he became Dot is if you heard it, you would also laugh at him.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it does make sense of why he would become sort of a villain in that case. Because nobody would take him seriously, he can't find a job, lost everything because of a superhero who gets all the praise and love, except from JJJ.
Mm-hmm.
So, and all around, I think Dot is a good character that can be eventually turned good, given that people will actually hear him out and talk to him without laughing.
See, Miles tried to do that when he was about to go in the collider, but he cuts off the web. He says they won't laugh at me anymore. So like,
Yeah.
they had their chance to talk to him, but they treated him like a joke. So now they're suffering the consequences of it.
Exactly. It was fine if you laughed at him the first time hearing it, but then you tried to understand him. But no, they just kept laughing at him and making jokes about him. But
Oh my
yeah,
god.
he still has the potential to become good, in my opinion.
Yeah, that final Spider-Verse movie is gonna hopefully wrap his character up well.
Yep, because I'm having hopes that maybe he'll turn things around and end up saving Miles in the Spider-Verse by basically acting as this anchor now, where you can change the canon, but your world won't end thanks to Spot. So people won't have to constantly see the ones they love be lost and have to deal with it because it's the canon. As Miguel just comes out of nowhere and kills them anyways.
See, the problem is with that is he says the canon event is the whole reason most of them become Spider-Man. So if they were to take that away, I think most of them wouldn't exist. I think that's why Miguel's so scared, because like he'd lose basically a whole chunk of his army.
Exactly. He'd lose his forces. People that he can easily manipulate and talk into doing these shitty things, all because if the canon doesn't happen, then the world will end and there will be no more Spider-Man.
I just don't understand why he didn't talk to Miles. He talked to Gwen. I don't understand why he didn't ask Gwen to go get Miles to recruit him into their band of superheroes. I'm sure if you like actually explain what's going on instead of letting him do a canon event, ruin a canon event by complete accident, then I don't know. It's just the way they play this game of ambiguity is just really annoying because they could have clearly talked to him and explained things to him, but they just choose not to because he's not supposed to be here. He's not supposed to be Spider-Man. It's like he's a living glitch. Like, so at least talk to him about it.
Exactly, like kind of explain it to him and have someone sent to explain how Spider-Men are created and how they work. Instead of basically telling you need to let your dad die. You need to sit there and watch your dad die. Basically that. I can understand where Miguel is coming from, but he could have done it in such a much better way because that is still a kid. It isn't a full ass grown adult like Peter Parker or some of the other Spider-Men that has a goddamn kid.
Mm-hmm.
And
God.
also at the same time, since he is a glitch and anomaly, then he wouldn't technically have a canon event to speak of. So we don't know what would happen to his world if he was to save his dad and his family and things like that. That would normally make normal Spider-Man. So we can't say for certain that Miguel is fully right in what he says, and it could just be a prejudice of what he's seen because, Miles is an unknown factor in the whole thing he's created.
Mm-hmm. God, I need to see the third film come out. I need to see how it all ends because there's so much build up in the second film.
There really is.
Oh my god. One last thing, just to wrap things up. Let's do like a big like overall rating of the rosters and stuff. Okay, so My Hero Academia, uh, good or bad, from your end, Jenkins.
For the actual villains, I have to give it a good. But for Bakugo specifically, just terrible. Dog shit.
What about like the other heroes and stuff?
The other heroes, I really like them because they're ones that are fueled by money, ego, fame, all this bullshit that heroes don't really need. And they get their comeuppance via Stain. But then you have the true heroes like All Might that you can really respect, and it's what brings the whole series together. What encourages people to become a hero and do good.
Yeah, I get you. Uh, My Hero for me, I say the villains are top tier. The heroes, I don't know. I like a lot of them, but there are so many that are just so redundant. I just wish they did more. Like, I remember seeing that fucking Mina Shudo has a total of 7 minutes screen time in season 1. Like, they have this big, vibrant roster of characters, and they just pick them, choose which ones get their moments or which ones don't. It just kind of feels disrespectful to have them there if their time's just going to be wasted.
True. Because Mina is a pretty good and goofy character. I like how she was designed.
Mm-hmm. Oh my god. Okay, so Marvel. We didn't touch that much on Marvel, but I don't know. I think Marvel's heroes are okay. I don't really like a lot of them outside of Spider-Man, honestly, because
Yeah.
I don't know. They just don't capture me the
Marvel.
same way Spider-Man does.
Exactly. Marvel has good villains, but a lot of them are just kind of overdone or kind of stupid. Kind of
Yeah.
like in a similar situation with DC.
The Flash.
The Flash, the Flasher.
The Flasher. Oh my god. And Marvel's villains. Again, I don't really remember that many outside of Spider-Man's, honestly.
That's fair.
And like, I guess Thanos is the peak of Marvel villains. Like, you think of a Marvel villain, you are 9 times out of 10 gonna think of Thanos.
Exactly. He's one of the very few very good villains. Like he has a clear, concise goal, and he'll do whatever he fucking wants and what he can to achieve that goal.
And when he wins and gets his goal, he just sits there, he relaxes, he won the war, he got what he wanted.
Exactly. Also, Thanos copter.
The Thanos captor. And then DC. I like a lot of the roster of DC. I remember them a little bit more than I do Marvel's roster, honestly, but I think they're alright. I think they're all around decent.
Yeah.
And the villains, I remember a handful of them. I don't. They're not particularly memorable outside of Batman and Superman's villains.
Exactly. Because the rest don't really have villains. They have like nemesis and enemies, but not really anything you can consider a villain in their case.
Yeah. Like, when's the last time you ever saw someone name a Green Arrow villain?
Honestly, I don't think he even has an actual villain.
That's the worst part. Like, these guys just don't have enemies. Like, the only one I can think that's like sort of obscure is Black Manta with Aquaman.
Yeah, that one. I don't even really know Black Manta's entire goal. Is it like
Oh,
to invade Atlantis or something?
I believe his whole thing is that Aquaman killed his father, so now he wants revenge and just to fuck up Aquaman in general. I think that's how it went, but don't quote me on that.
Nobody truly knows.
Yeah, so that's you have any last words then, Jenkins, about this topic?
We need better villains.
That's fucking true. Holy shit. Fucking, I don't know. I think villains, you don't have to make them like these empathetic, like relatable villains. You can make them just evil for the sake of it, like with Jack Horner and Puss in Boots, because he's just hilariously evil and it's so funny.
Exactly. He's goofy, yet he's still a good designed villain.
It's so fucking stupid. It's also like Venom in the Spider-Man 3 Sam Raimi movie. He's just bad because he likes it, and that's kind of funny.
Exactly. Like, we don't need all these sympathetic villains. Sometimes we just need an asshole like Frieza.
Yeah, Freeze has no sympathy going on with him. He's just evil. He's Space Napoleon Hitler.
Napoleon Hitler.
uh, so yeah, I guess that's it for today's episode. Thank you for listening for this long. Again, Jenkins, you want to sign yourself off?
No.
Oh, okay. That's fair. All right. We'll see you all in the next episode. Have a good one, and goodbye.